Ram Om. Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om 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 Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody.
Hari Om Swamiji. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.
Pranam Swamiji.
Pranam, Pranam, Pranam.
Hari Om. Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om. Where are we now? We are in ashram, you are in your place. Chapter number 22. Yeah. Meditation, the only way is over, no? So before we take up the text, suddenly it struck to us. Why not we go through some portions from God experience? Because in every chapter, Papa keeps on bringing the word by the will of Ram, as Ram instructed, glory to Ram. Probably many of us are not still clear about it. He says, we should not make the mistake of thinking that by our efforts we can get it. Really, by His will, by His grace, by His power alone, we can have it. Even before Ramdas left Bangalore in 1922, it had become increasingly clear to him that God had taken him up for granting him the vision and experience of His life, power and joy. In the book In Quest of God, You will find he left Mangalore not of his own accord. God wanted him to go out of Mangalore and wander about. Everything Ramdas did was at the prompting or inspiration of God. When we are on the path, the best way is to struggle with the knowledge that he is making us to struggle. When we are on the path, the best way is to struggle with the knowledge that he is making us struggle. He is giving us the incentive to do sadhana. The teacher gives a lesson to his pupil, watches. So also he is watching and guiding us in every action. When led into solitude, Ramdas went there like an automaton. God willed. You must go there. He obeyed. In the midst of wild beasts, he had absolutely no fear because he was obeying the master's command. And nothing untoward happened. After Ramdas had got the initiation from his guru, guidance always came to him from within. As he recognized this, he would not care for the advice of anybody. Many told him he was going on the wrong path. But the fact was that he did not know what he was doing was right or wrong. God had set him on the path. And he had no fear of fall or frustration. We must always feel he is guiding us. God must inspire us in all things. We should feel God leads us on. There is no reasoning or planning there. The urge comes from within and we act. Many people struggle egoistically for years without any spiritual attainment. You ought to know that God is directing you. You must be conscious of it. For instance, at the age of 38, suddenly the change came over Ramdas. He was leading an ordinary life. Hunger for God came to him because God gave it to him. Hunger for God came to him because God gave it to him. Why did he not have it earlier? For God did not will it. He felt that it was he, capital H. He felt that it was he, God, who called him away. In his book he has stated that God drove him away from Mangalore. In fact, God led him away just as a mother leads the child by the hand to any places she likes. In the book World is God, the first chapter is entitled God Leads. What made you give up everything and go away? They asked. God made him do so. His renunciation was not reasoned out or planned out. The urge was so strong that he could not resist it. It was all in God's hands. God did whatever he liked with him. There is no question of why and therefore. There is a saying by Shankara, God is true, the world is illusion. The world as Brahman is real. The world as world is illusion. God himself is manifest everywhere, as everything. The manifest is he, the unmanifest is he. The manifest and the unmanifest are not two separate entities. Shiva and Shakti are not two. Just as the sun cannot exist without its light, and the light cannot exist without the sun, so God and his power are one and the same. God is at once Purusha and Prakriti. There our minds cannot reach. Therefore the Gita calls him unthinkable, Achintya Rupa, our greatest secret, Uttama Rahasya. We cannot imagine what he and what he is not. At once he is everything and beyond everything. He is beyond our comprehension. Therefore silence is he, Maun is Brahman. It appears two boys were sent to Kashi for study of shastras under a famous pandit from that place. They came back on the completion of their studies. Their father asked one of the boys, "Have you understood what Brahman is?" He said, "Yes." "What is it?" The boy quoted profusely from the Upanishads and other texts. "Son, you have not understood Brahman," said the father. He called the other son and asked him, "You have studied everything. Do you know what Brahman is?" He remained silent. Thrice he was put the question. Still no answer. Then the father said, "You have understood what Brahman is." The man who has realized Brahman cannot express what it is. All we have to do is to follow a course of discipline to still the mind. Then we will know the truth. One cannot express what it is, but one can experience it. Therefore, Buddha never attempted to define the ultimate reality. Ramdas came across a pregnant sentence in his teachings in the Light of Asia by Sir Edwin Arnold. "Do not dip the stream of thought into the unfathomable. He who questions earth, he who answers earth." He does not define the state. He calls the state nirvana, which is the same as moksha. Negatively, you can say it is not this, it is not this. You cannot say what it is. So we have to follow the path chalked out for us by sages and saints. They ask us to go along the path trodden by them. We ourselves must walk the path, reach the goal. There is no use of speculating about it. You must go beyond all thoughts if you want to enter the realm of immortality. Your intellect cannot follow you. Forget everything, still the mind. Then you will realize that you are the eternal truth, silence. The world is non-existent for you for the time being. Then you know who you are, what the world is. In every chapter in Quest of God, we find Papa is bringing this theme. Motivated by God, guided by God, many of us are not still clear as to how this guidance comes. So here, by hearing this, probably we might pray to Him from the bottom of the heart to make us hear the guidance. Previously we thought by doing so many things, we can prepare our mind to hear that. So that is why Papa is emphatically mentioning here, we should not make the mistake of thinking that by our efforts we can get Him. Really, by His will, by His grace, by His power alone, we can have Him. Even before Ramdas left to Mangalore in 1922, it had become increasingly clear to him that God had taken him up for granting him the vision and experience of His light, power and joy. In the book In Quest of God, you will find he left to Mangalore not of his own accord. God wanted him to go out of Mangalore and wander about. Everything Ramdas did was at the prompting or inspiration of God. When we are on the path, the best way is to struggle with the knowledge that He is making us struggle. He is giving us the incentive to do sadhana. The teacher gives a lesson to his pupil and watches. So also he is watching and guiding us in every action. When led into solitude, Ramdas went there like an automaton. God will, you must go there, he obeyed. After Ramdas had got initiation from his guru, guidance always came to him from within. As he recognized this, he would not care for the advice of anybody. Many told him he was going on the wrong path. But the fact was that he did not know what he was doing was right or wrong. God had set him on the path, and he had no fear of fall or frustration. We must always feel he is guiding us. God must inspire us in all things. We should feel God leads us on. There is no reasoning or planning here. The urge comes from within, and we act. Many people struggle egoistically for years without any spiritual attainment. You ought to know that God is directing you. You must be conscious of it. For instance, at the age of 38, suddenly the change came over Ramdas. He was leading an ordinary life. Hunger for God came to him because God gave it to him. Why did he not have it earlier? Because God did not will it. He felt that it was God who called him away. In this book he has stated that God drove him away from Bangalore. In fact, God led him away, just as a mother leads the child by the hand to any place she likes. So when we go through In Quest of God, chapter by chapter, whenever we find Papa making a reference about Ram's will, we should try to know that God is directing us to read those lines. You have to make somewhere a beginning. He says, even while we struggle, we should know that it is God who is making us struggle. Out of these 37 chapters, suppose we are blessed by His grace to know this truth in any one of them, then our whole attempt is worthwhile. This is very important. We are not covering any portions here. An in-depth study of In Quest of God during this centenary year is intended to know this truth. That He is directing us to go through In Quest of God, to keep on reminding our mind that it is by His will we are prompted to go through it. That is the very purpose of taking up this in-depth study. From this it is very clear. Through the episodes, Papa is also bringing this. Anybody would like to share any thoughts?
No, I and me, mainly.
If at all we have to use I and me, suppose we try to understand it is he who is making us to say I and me, then there is no problem. Because he says, after he came back from the yatra he said, which is chronicled in Inquest of God, until such time he was making a mention about I. And when he came back, suddenly he found the I is not there. So he started expressing it through the third person, Ramdas His. At the same time, in his articles or in some articles or in some poems, he used the word I. That I is the cosmic I, if you closely go through. So it is not that I and mine is one. I and mine with what background we are telling.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om, yes.
Swamiji, I am understanding that all the actions are prompted by God and He is behind all the actions. This is fine as long as the actions are God oriented, prayer oriented and sattvic oriented. What about those actions which are not really good, but is God prompting that kind of action also, like stealing, telling lies, things like that? I am unable to understand something.
When we know that God is prompting us, we will not tell lies. Because of his magnanimity, he has given us a sense of freedom by giving us this sense of individuality. In that freedom, we lost who has given us this freedom. And then we identified with the lower self. And because for the preservation of this lower self, we become a victim to all sorts of these down-pulling tendencies. The moment, out of His grace, He makes us aware, we try to get back to our original state. That original state is that He has given us a sense of freedom to function. So when somebody tells lies, immediately suppose God is prompting to tell a lies. But when we actually realize that it is He who is behind it, we will not tell lies. Papa makes it very clear that we commit mistake only when we forget Him. That means the sense of individuality feels absolutely independent. That freedom He has given. That freedom He has given, and to choose either to go upward or to go downward. Why did He give that? We cannot ask the why and wherefore. And another problem comes in our mind is that unknowingly we have defined to ourselves that these are all spiritual, these are all worldly. And we find when we hear some spiritual values, it is difficult for us to implement at the worldly level. Once we start, by His grace, realizing that behind every thought, behind every word, behind every action, it is He, then the division between spiritual and worldly do not exist. That means spirituality becomes applied in day-to-day life. Normally, any activity, why do we say worldly? Why it is not spiritual? It is from the individual level. To make us understand, that is the easy way to understand. Spiritual level means from the cosmic level. This is from the individual level. We are trying to understand that even this individual level concept is also a gift, a freedom given by him. Though the why and whereof we don't know. But so a stage should come when we demolish the barrier between the divide between worldly and spiritual. One of the famous quotation of Papa clarifies this. Spirituality that cannot be applied in actual life is no spirituality. Just because our mind intellect equipment is based on viewing everything from the personal level, from the individual level, we are unable to grasp the other one. By hearing this and by contemplating upon it and by slowly realizing it, we have been promised by saints, by Mahatmas like Papa, that one day we will realize everything has been his, everything is his, everything will be his.
Hari Om Swami, thank you.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Anything else?
Swamiji,
Ah.
so all that is happening is only at this place. Is that so, Swamiji?
Yes, Padmaji.
All that is happening is only by his will.
All the things are happening. It is his will.
Only by his will.
Only by his will.
That is a statement at the moment in our mind. And we are trying to hear and understand it from the individual level. We will not be able to understand its full import when viewed it from the individual level. There is a limitation, no? In other words, how do I think in terms of global or cosmic level, universal level? The moment I start realizing that I exist because of the factors other than me, the dominance of me and mine will become reduced. Then we see, even for that, His grace is necessary. So, along with prayer, this should be our prayer. Make me aware of all that you have given to me. I am viewing it purely from the individual level. My individual level means my rights and wrongs, my likes and dislikes, my preferences, priorities, my preconceived notions. All these put together is the me and mine, individual level. So first of all, we are praying to Him. Give us, please kindly pour your grace on us so that we will be able to slightly raise ourselves from the individual level. Otherwise, it is difficult for us to understand. From our level, when we try to understand, we may not be able, because the intellect has got a limit. We cannot rationalize everything. Though everything is possible, but at what level we are rationalizing? So this is the real struggle all of us are having, and that is why this year Papa wants us to go intensely with the In Quest of God. To somehow accept that His will alone prevails. We are still finding it difficult because from the individual level we have our own planning, we have our own concepts about everything. To erase everything, the toughest job. Something happened here.
No, somebody is
Okay.
presenting. Somebody is trying to present. Hari Om.
She's
Yes, but it's somebody is doing it by mistake.
Swamiji, you are the go-between. You will make us understand everything.
Kindly do not present. Swamiji Satsang is going on. Hari Om.
so we have our effort now is to intensify our prayer rather than trying to understand the logic behind everything. Somehow you please. I know very well that not because of my effort I am existing. I am existing purely because of you only. But that I understand only in a passive, sattvic mood, where there is silence, where there is no interaction. But the moment I interact with the world outside, transact with the world outside, at the householder's level, at the professional level, at the social level, I have trained my mind to view everything from the individual level. So it is difficult for me to absorb, to assimilate. So kindly enable me to pass this, to get over this hurdle. There is no other way after reading Papa's book, because every time somebody made a research, how many times
Ram was used.
he did.
Govindra.
150 times.
150 times
20
up to
chapters. 20
up to 20th chapter, 150, 150 times Papa makes a mention about Ram's will, Ram guides, Ram directs. We should know why he has been mentioning again and again and again and again and again. This is the purpose of in-depth study, We are not covering any portions. That is not our intention. We are trying to understand the real content, the essence of In Quest of God. The essence of In Quest of God is everything happens only by His will, and He means always well. This should become a part of our life. This is what Papa expects all of us to do. Not for talking. So we are all now struggling because of the over-dominance of our individual level approach. That beautiful prayer, thy glory. You remember?
Yes, Swamiji.
That we have to keep on hammering. Then also Omkarji Maharaj, that adorable presence. Do you have the prayer here? Huh?
Yes. There.
Accepting that, everything will be there. So we will again read this, to hammer this idea. We should not make the mistake of thinking that by our efforts we can get Him, get God. Really, by His will, by His grace, by His power alone, we can have Him. Even before Ramdas left Mangalore in 1922, it had become increasingly clear to him that God had taken him up for granting him the vision and experience of his light, power, and joy. Why he uses the word light, power, and joy? This is the translation he has given for sat-chit-ananda. Elsewhere he defines sat-chit-ananda. He says light, power, and joy. Easy for everybody to understand.
Swamiji,
Oh,
please explain this again.
we should not make the mistake of thinking that by our efforts we can get him. Really by his will, by his grace, by his power alone we can have him. Even before Ramdas left Mangalore in 1922, it had become increasingly clear to him that God had taken him up for granting him the vision and experience of his light, power, and joy. In the book In Quest of God, you will find he left Mangalore not of his own accord. God wanted him to go out of Mangalore and wander about. Everything Ramdas did was at the prompting or inspiration of God. When we are on the path, the best way is to struggle with the knowledge. We are all struggling. But what is our approach? It might be, when we hear the sayings of Papa, we will try to implement it. Again, we are implementing it. We are trying to implement it. The sense of individuality is trying. And when for decades now we have been trying. That is why Papa made it very clear, we should not make the mistake of thinking that by our efforts we can get him. So even while we struggle, we should know the best way is to struggle with the knowledge that he is making us struggle. He is giving us the incentive to do sadhana. So we were making a mention about the prayer, no? So again now let us see, thy glory. O Lord, I have nothing to ask of you. I am blessed with all that one can hope for, ask for. I have a mind to think, it is thy glory. I have eyes to see, ears to hear, all these are thy glory. I have in front of me a world so vast and so variegated, enough for me to express myself. Again it is thy glory. I can make, I can unmake. All these possibilities are again thy glory. I can even make this prayer to you. This capacity to appreciate you is again thy glory. I seek from thee nothing, for you have given me everything. Inside me, outside me, your presence is something that I can't miss, I don't want to miss. Let thy grace be upon me, not to gain anything new. This is the cream of this, Let thy grace be upon me, not to gain anything new, but to make me see thy glory. In all my achievements, in all my capacities, let me see thy glory. So when we read this prayer and try to dwell on it, and try to slowly relate it to our day-to-day life, suddenly we realize, yes, he is organizing it, he is facilitating us. Everything for us. He made somebody, so Swami Dayananda says, Swami Dayanji Maharaj, when he composed this, somehow he made us to get this, and then get it keyed in and then later on printed. The printing in technology, the paper, how the paper comes, how the printing technology came, and how they are now presented to us in a most impressive manner. We can put it in the packet. For a second, suppose we start thinking behind this, what an amount of activities that have taken place to come this in this form, for which we have not contributed anything. So probably like this, even the very act of struggle, he says, we should know that he is making us to struggle. Now, normally you and I, what we do it, when we hear the words of Mahatmas, we feel honestly, sincerely that we should try in this way. For example, to still the mind. We have some words of Papa, like, we chant mentally. And when we chant mentally, we slowly become aware that we are chanting. Who is knowing and who is chanting, and suddenly the chanting stops. And again another thought comes, again we have been asked to chant. So the gap between the end of the one chanting and beginning of another chanting, Mataji used to say, that is Papa. All these things we hear, we try to practice. But we have not reached anywhere. The words of Papa and Mataji, though we have read umpteen number of times, we must have struggled umpteen number of times, but it is not, still we have not had the privilege of tasting the essence of it. That is why Papa is answering today. He has been watching us struggling. He is providing us through all these teachings. And so he expects that we realize this reality, that he is facilitating everything. Here again, we don't. We think that we are struggling. We are trying to assimilate. We are trying to absorb. No. Papa today wanted to, that is why he drove us to this God experience, this particular page. And then he is telling us, we should not make the mistake of thinking that by our efforts we can get him. So whenever we read, and we feel it is it is something like a guidance for us, we should immediately first see not the guidance, but we must recognize that it is he who has facilitated us to understand the guidance, to have that guidance, to feel that guidance. And that is why he insisted that constant chanting should be resorted to, because the mind should not have any time to come and step in and arrogate. So when his father came to him and told him that if you chant this constantly, you will get peace. That means not allowing the sense of individuality in the form of the mind coming and blocking us. Even now, he is giving us a taste. Suppose when we sit for Ramnam chanting, on some days especially, when the entire ambience is very sattvic, and when the Ramnam is led by somebody and everybody joins, there is an inexplicable thrill felt by everybody. It is the grace that he is pouring. He made us to realize, He made us to enjoy, He made us to see that the mind is not there during that time. He made us to see that the I and mind stepped out for some time. And that is why in the day's routine, along with Ramnam, along with Bhajan, Papa Mataji also introduced this prayer. Na? Prayer and Arati, if we go through along with the meaning, helps us to become aware of His grace. Or putting it in another way, He caused our ashram routine to have prayer and arati, because every word in that prayer, say for example, the universal prayer, the prayer for world peace, it is immediately we are reminded. Adorable presence, thou who art within and without, above and below and all around, thou who art interpenetrating the very cells of our being, thou who art the eye of our eyes, this much close, that power because of which the eyes are now seeing. The ear of our ears, the heart of our hearts, the mind of our minds, that which is behind all, the breath of our breaths, the life of our lives, and the soul of our souls. Bless us, dear God, to be aware of Thy presence now and here. That is why the word now and here, because for this, we have before us our BMI, body, mind, intellect, equipment. Seeing is something we can understand. Hearing is something we can understand. The pulsating, the throbbing of our heart, we can understand. The breathing, we can understand. Thoughts, we can understand. The life force, of our lives. Bless us, dear God, to be aware of Thy presence now and here. So along with Ramnam, along with Bhajan, the Almighty through Papa and Mataji caused the Arati and prayer every day, so that we are really linked to the purpose of Ramnam chanting, purpose of Bhajan, purpose of doing any other thing. Whether we are doing ashram seva, so many activities in the office, in the Bhajan Shala, in the Goshala, so many in the field. Like in any other organization, we are also involved in many activities. So while involving in activities, we have to somehow bring this dimension. So God has facilitated, but here also we started viewing it as from the individual level as a prayer. That is why it has become a routine, leaving no deep impress. As a routine, we all chant. We all get up. We all hear. And the tune is so enchanting. Some concentration is there. A little taste of bhakti will be there. And then we enjoy the scene, the session. We were satisfied. But now Papa says no. The real purpose of introducing this is to connect ourselves with His grace. His grace, His power, and His will. That is why somebody found 150 times repetition of this Ram's will, Ram's power, Ram's grace, O Ram. This expression for 150 times in 22 chapters. 20 chapters. Another 17 are there. So today he chose to concentrate upon this aspect, vital aspect. Otherwise we may be covering the portion chapter by chapter. And again we are there where we started. That unintentionally, all of us want to sincerely move towards Him, no doubt about it. But now he is also pointing out where we have to make some adjustments, changes. It is all right, you are guided by the episode, you are guided by the words. But all this is because He ordained. He gave you a passive mind, a sattvic mind. He provided a sattvic atmosphere for you to absorb it. And it is happening every moment of our life. He chose to remember us that at least when we are in ashram, where opportunities for bringing this, realizing this grace, realizing this will, realizing this power of God is more than outside. Because we are free from our me and mine activity outside. So when we are in ashram, that is why they said charging. So we try to put it to this aspect, that all our efforts, really by His will, by His grace, by His power alone we can have Him. That is the real charging, not the other one. Rest of the things are all superficial. I won't say superficial, these are on the different level. Even when He prompts us to take the prayer, when He prompts us to take up this particular portion from God experience, or then relate it to the inquest of God, in-depth study, we should know that it is by His grace alone it has been made possible. Otherwise at 3:30 or 3:45, why should He make us to go through this book, God experience? 10 minutes or 15 minutes before we came to this Satsang hall, 10 minutes to be more precise, suddenly to take up this book, quite a big book, and then go to this particular page, the guidance is coming, We have covered about 22 chapters now. Where are we and what are we? Again, it is slipping into an academic exercise. Is it so? Or is it really trying to motivate us to the vital aspect? Vital aspect of spirituality is that it is His will alone prevails. So we pray to Him. You are facilitating, even then I am not aware that you are facilitating. Sorry, I am facilitated. Even though you are facilitating, I am not aware that you are facilitating. So now our prayer is, though you are giving everything, why don't you please make us aware that you are giving everything? Which is what exactly we want. Otherwise we are following the, he said about the Kashi, it appears two boys were sent to Kashi for studying shastras under the famous Pandit of that place. They came back on the completion of their studies. Their father asked one of the boys, have you understood what Brahman is? Yes, he said, what is it? The boy quoted profusely from the Upanishads and other texts. We also profusely quote from In Quest of God and other texts. Son, you have not understood Brahman. He called the other son and asked him, you have studied everything. Do you know what Brahman is? He remained silent. Thrice he put the question, still no answer. Then the father said, you have understood what Brahman is. Here the boy is innocent. The one first said. He thought that Brahman is to reproduce what has been. But the other boy could realize that it is not reproduction, it is absorption, assimilation. So we are now trying to understand where are we now and what are we now. Anyway, one thing is sure, all of us, let us be rest assured that He is behind us. Though we are indifferent, He is behind us. He will not leave us. So let us all, with a heart full of gratitude, let us realize this truth.
Swamiji, when we are not feeling well, we take medicine to drive out the disease. Similarly, to drive out the ego and otherness, we are going through the inquest of God and we trust that definitely He will drive out the ego and otherness.
First class. Like that, He is driving out. That is important.
He is driving out.
Yeah. We have to ensure that somehow we try to realize this.
Swamiji, Hari
Om.
Pranams. In the book Religion, its University by Swami Ramdas, at the end he says, the true vision is eternal and universal, beyond the limits of all creeds, sects, dogmas, customs and religions. The first comma means true vision is eternal and universal, okay. But there are limits for all the creeds, sects, dogmas, customs and religions. He is just accepting it, isn't it? Beyond. What is the meaning, real meaning? Because limits are there for creeds, sects, dogmas, customs and religions. That's why infights going on now throughout the world.
Okay.
This statement is quite contradictory, isn't it?
Nothing is contradictory.
Swamiji?
Nothing is if it is viewed from the individual level, it is contradictory.
Yes.
It is not. Papa used to say, Puja Swamiji used to share with us that when he was in defense services, in military, during the wartime in late 40s, at that time, one of his colleagues told him that there is a saint in India, in Kerala, who said, there is no disorder in the world. The world is exactly as it should be. Puja Swamiji was telling us it was very difficult for us to understand we are on the war field.
Yes.
So many atrocities are going on according to our language.
Yes.
And here one person says there is no disorder in the world. Everything is as it should be. We will get some clarity on this only. So Puja Swamiji said, only two people can say this in this world. One, a person who has risen above the sense of individuality. The other is the madman. So then we started thinking, how can Papa say, when you are viewing it from the aircraft, for example, when we are moving towards a particular destination, and when we look down, we see everything is perfectly all right. Even if somebody is fighting, it will not be treated as something that disturbs us. Even if something is there which is not in order, when we are on the ground level, there we will not see that. So then we come to know that whenever we find it is contradictory, it is because it is viewed from the individual level. When we try to raise ourselves to a higher level, the same stage, the same field remains perfect. This is an experience. Suppose we try to understand it rationally, the intellect will never agree.
Yes, yes.
So we try to put our efforts. Because Puja Swamiji said that is one of the quotations that drew him to Papa. That the world, there is no disorder in the world.
Yes.
The world is exactly as it should be. So whatever happens, that is because of his will and power. So we try. Now it is very, very clear to us. Now it is very, very clear.
Yes, 1954 when Papa was there, around the world, the vision, the true vision is eternal and universal, beyond the limits of all creeds, sects, dogmas, customs and religions. Statement quite, accepts that, isn't it?
Everywhere he could find that some systems are there.
Yes.
Some systems are leading people to some other destination. Some systems are leading to another. This is all his play. He was able to realize that state. We are trying to understand it through our own. Chinmayanji Maharaj used to say, when you see the world through the goggles of limitation, the world seems to be finite. So it is because, from the individual level, yes, there is disorder. From the cosmic level, no, there is no disorder. So our efforts are now to see at the cosmic level. That means it is not, it is not how to raise ourselves to a cosmic level only by invoking his blessings. Because from the individual level, we cannot raise ourselves. We have to seek his intervention. Only he can lift us up from the individual level and make us one with the cosmic level.
Yes.
So let us all try our level best. Every effort we are making, every word that we express, it is all because he is guiding us, he is guiding us, he is guiding us. Let us try to become aware of this vital point, most important point.
Yes, Swamiji.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Hari Om, Hari Om. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om